Hello, everybody who is joining us for our first ever compliance AI school. I am nominally your master of ceremonies. I'm Matt Kelly, editor of Radical Compliance. I'm going to talk for just a few couple of minutes, although my partner in crime here is the entire Athena team, and we should all know it was their idea to have this compliance school for compliance officers. Roxanne Petraeus, the CEO, I think it was Roxanne's idea originally, but then she and Chris, their marketing person, and Ace, their marketing and logistics person, everybody else ran with this, and I am dazzled at how effective they have been. Roxanne, hello. I can't see you on my screen anymore, Roxanne, because
Don't worry,
everybody's
I'm here.
in.
Don't feel alone, Matt. You got it,
All right.
buddy. Yeah.
Yeah, so I see a bunch of heads on mute.
Yep.
Um, but I think we've got about 25-ish or 27-ish attendees, plus a bunch of Athena people who will be helping behind the scenes. Um, I guess we can just roll on and get started here. I'll do a few
Yep.
housekeeping items. If we could move on to slide 2 of our little intro deck before we get rolling. The long story short for the housekeeping is that we would ask everybody, if at all possible, to keep your cameras on so we can see you instead of just a little black letter or white letter against black background, but see everybody who's on the class. We are not going to do introductions because while we do want to foster a sense of community, we do have a lot of people. And if we did 1 or 2 minutes for introductions, that would burn through half the class. You can certainly go to our compliance school website. There's a little community section where you can chime in with your thoughts or who you are or what you're dealing with there. You could also say hello in the chat if you want, but we're not going to do formal introductions. We do ask that everybody keep their mic on mute unless you are raising a question, have something to say, something like that. If you do want to ask a question, you can use the raise your hand function on Zoom. We'll try and call on you. There is the chat function. You can also use, and we are going to keep an eye on things. There's a lot of Athena people working behind the scenes to help you out. Don't know what they're doing because I don't know what I'm doing. And I am just as eager to take this class and learn about how to use AI as everybody else. So, other than that, we do want this to be interactive. If you do have questions, if you're not sure what you're doing, if you tried something and it's not working well, feel free to raise your hand, ask for help. I know that they can bring you into a special breakout room if you want some one-on-one help. We are supposed to go until 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's in 90 minutes. And then after that, there'll be sort of office hours as well if you want to work on your project. This is a long-winded way of saying that we very much want to make sure you get a lot out of this. So feel free to experiment. You're going to do some real things. They're probably not going to work like you thought. You can ask for help. Athena people will guide you through it. That all said, our big master of ceremonies for this, if we can move on, I guess, to the next slide. Um, I am here. I'm going to stop talking in a minute. There's Roxanne Petraeus, the CEO of Athena. She's floating around here as well. We do have our lead instructor here is Hannah-Laure McElhenney. Hannah-Laure is the VP of Design at Athena. She's come up with the class that she wants to teach us today. I will turn it over to Hannah-Laure. We also have Erin Paul, who is another one of the Athena instructors, kind of hovering around the edges, ready to swoop in and help. But Hannah-Laure, I will let you take it away.
Amazing. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. And I'm excited to work with everyone today. Um, so before we get going, let's just go over the agenda really quick. We're going to start off with some AI framing, just some general information that you need to know about AI. And again, if you are off mute, please mute yourself so we can all keep moving on. We're going to spend the most of the class doing some hands-on building, which I learned by doing. I know most people do. So we're going to do a lot of practical practice today. And then we're also going to share and discuss, which, oh my gosh, scary, but that's where all the learning happens. And I hope that you guys will be very successful with your prototypes. And then at the end, we have an optional 30 minutes for office hours. And I really do encourage you guys to stay. We can problem solve. We can just chat about AI. There's some other ideas that we'll introduce today that we're probably not going to spend a ton of time on, but if you want to continue the conversation about apps and agents, I really, really recommend the office hours. And first of all, like most importantly, we're going to have a ton of fun. I know we might all be feeling like this little golden retriever right now, kind of overwhelmed, but I promise you, this is going to be great, and we'll have a lot of fun. So first thing, before we get into it, a couple pre-flight checks. I want to make sure that everyone has the Claude web app because we're going to use that today. And if you have the Claude desktop app, bonus points, you don't need it, but if you want to talk about agents later, you will need the Claude desktop app. So if you're curious or there's a dull moment here and you want to download it, get on that. And then also have Lovable up. If you do not have access to any of these, pop over in the chat and the Athena team will help you. All right. So what you'll walk away today with, we're going to make 2 working apps. We're going to do them together. And we're also going to walk away with a working mental model of when to use AI, and if so, what tools to use. So first off, let's get started with a pulse check. So in the chat, we said this would be interactive. Surprise, is happening right now. In the chat, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the least, 5 being the most, I'm comfortable with Claude or ChatGPT. 1, I am not comfortable. 5, I'm a pro. Let's hear it. All right, we've got quite the range here. Oh, a 4, yeah. Oh, that's Chris. You don't get to vote. Chris is skewing our average. All right, so we've got a lot of folks kind of in the middle here. This is great. I gotta say, everyone, like the more I know, the more I learn. I don't know anything at all. So, we're all on this journey together. And then another pulse check, 1 to 5. I've built things with AI before. 1 being I've never built anything, and 5, I've built many things. All right, some 1s and 2s, and intrepid 3. I love it. Okay, so we've got some scale here. A few 4s coming in. Good. Okay, I think everyone's in the right spot. We're all in really good company. This is the place. Amazing. All right, cool. All right, let's start with the AI landscape. So first things first, we got to figure out what different tools are, when to reach for each. Of course, they're always coming out with new tools. So next week there might be 5. Don't quote me on this. But let's start with the first main 4 kinds. So chatbots. Seems everyone's pretty familiar with chatbots. Your Claude, ChatGPT, Copilot, and the whole idea is you ask it questions, it answers. It's really amazing for research, data analysis. It's just a better Google. And it can rewrite things. I would say that's the great place to start. You can do quite a lot with that. The next main group of tools that we use are vibe coding tools. So the idea is that you might describe some kind of functionality and it will build it for you. It's great for little apps or tools to support your daily operations. Things like Lovable, which we'll be using today, Replit, Bolt, or V0, all amazing options for vibe coding. The next type of tool that we see a lot is agents, and in the tech space, agents are the hot new thing. They're basically chatbots, sentient chatbots, which are a little scary, but they're chatbots that can do things. So they can read files, they can send emails, they can search the web. Basically, they can act on complex tasks without involving you at every step. So if you've been using a chatbot and you feel like you're constantly asking questions, it's do you want me to? Do you want me to? Would you like to take the next step? And you're feeling annoyed, an agent might be for you, and because an agent won't ask you, an agent's just going to go do it. So things like Cohort, which we will look at the end of the session today, Gemini agent, Perplexity, those are tools that you might have heard thrown around. Those are all agents. And those are the things that if vibe coding makes us feel like magic, agents make you feel like more magic. They're very awesome. And then finally, automation. So some things that feel like AI magic are actually just machine learning. And when paired with AI tools, not tools, they are very, very powerful. So things like Zapier, Make, N8N, all very cool, awesome things that can supercharge your AI functions. But it's important, first of all, it's going to make you sound like a real pro if you know the difference between machine learning and AI, but also important to know because they are functionally different. Um, so with that, I want to remind everyone to match the tool for the job. So it's kind of like a relay race. You may need to combine tools to get your tasks done. So for example, we're going to vibe code today. We're going to use a chatbot to refine our prompt, and then we're going to use our prototyping tool to create the final product. You can also build skills or agents using a chatbot to build context and then use an agent to execute a workflow. Or finally, any automation. You might use Zapier to populate a database, but you might use a chatbot to query that database. So it's a little bit of a relay race. And honestly, right now, the way the products are set up and where we are in the bell curve of AI proficiency, we do need to kind of daisy chain these tools together. Um, that might not be the case in 3 to 6 months. As the tools get better, there will be less of this kind of like need to take something in one product and move it into another. But that's just the fun ride we're on right now. And another thing to think about is this is the most simple this landscape will ever be. So, even if you wish you had started on this project 3 months ago or 6 months ago, um, again, like today is the most simple it will be, and also the worst the tools will ever be. So it's only getting better. So suffice to say, you're here in the right place and at the right time. Okay. So let's take a breath. That was just quite a bit of information, but now I think we have a sense of the landscape, and we are going to jump into some vibe coding. So what is vibe coding? The idea is that we describe apps in plain English and AI writes the code. So typically, when we built software, before we would write requirements, we would hand it to IT. We would wait weeks, sometimes months, let's be honest, for a V1. And then we would learn that the V1 isn't really quite what we meant. We kind of need this other use case, and we would go back to the drawing board. Now, with vibe coding, you can describe to a tool like Lovable what you want in plain English. You can watch it build in 2 to 3 minutes, and then you can test it and refine the prompt. And what I personally have kind of learned from working in software for the last 15 years is that writing good requirements and generally being a very good communicator is the most challenging part of creating software. So I don't know if any of you have heard about the PB&J challenge, but when I was in elementary school, I actually did this. We had to write a recipe for peanut butter and jelly. And then our teacher got up and followed the instructions exactly. And let me tell you, we did not make any delicious PB&J in that classroom. If you say take peanut butter and jelly and put it on bread to a computer, it will probably take a jar of peanut butter and a jar of jelly and it would place it on top of the loaf of bread and say, "This is surprise, this is what you got." So, the thing is like AI is amazing, but AI doesn't it can't read your mind. It's not and nor can another person. And so you need to give it the context that it needs to follow your instructions exactly. And that's what we're going to be working on today is starting with a prompt, refining our prompt with a chatbot, and then letting someone execute it. And, it's hard to do, and there's no expectation that you would do that perfectly the first time, but that's what we are working on, and that's kind of the gold standard we're heading towards. Let me pause. Any questions about the different AI tools and landscape, kind of what we're going to be working on today? I'm looking in the chat.
Hannah.
Yes.
So how did you decide, or because the things are evolving so quickly and changing, so when you had the list of the 4 types and then which tool, because you see a lot on social media, Claude was great last week, last month, last year, and now the new one is this. So how do you sort of stay on top of that for maximizing or optimizing the tools?
Um, so personally, I find this kind of fun. So I do listen to a lot of AI content, but I would say if you are not, ready to add another 5-minute podcast into your podcast list, I have just been so impressed with Claude and Anthropic in general. So we're going to use Claude today. And as things have like other little apps have popped up, they've definitely been great and really proactive about incorporating them into Claude. And so I think finding a tool that you really like and feel comfortable with, and then just allowing that to kind of build your knowledge is going to be the most helpful. And, frankly, I've learned so much about AI just by chatting with my coworkers about it. They tell me new things all the time that I didn't know. Um, and so I would say, like, if that feels doable to you, go do that. I don't think we all need to be like AI professionals, like breaking news every day on AI to get a ton of benefit from AI. All right. Um, yes, Claire, I do have a great podcast. I will share the podcast with Ace so he can share it with all of you. I have a couple that are fun that I listen to on the regular. All right. Let's go. Oh, and one other question. Am I correct? The term agent found in Copilot is different from an agent in previous. I am actually not familiar with Copilot. Roxanne, Matt, Ace, anyone on the call, or Aaron, you might know that.
Hannelore, yeah. I in a previous role was spending a whole lot of time in Microsoft Copilot. So David, I would say think of this a little bit differently, especially because Microsoft's like Copilot agent is something that like just lives within theirs and is more of their like chatbot tool. So it's a really good call out. Is I'd say that one's a little bit different from the other ones that Hannelore was sharing there.
Perfect answer, Aaron. And my only addition is I find the like mental model of agent is just the example Chris and I gave at Compliance Week last week is like if you ask a chatbot like how do I make lasagna, it like will give you a recipe. And if you asked an agent how do I make lasagna, it would just like start to make you lasagna. It can actually go into the tools and like do it. And so that I think people get like, I'm sure there's a bunch of different technical definitions but chatbot is like, here's a great email to Matt Kelly telling him that New York is superior to Boston. But if you asked an agent to do it, it would literally put into my email drafts an agent to Matt, an email to Matt saying like, New York is superior to Boston. So it's like that action, I think, is the key distinction.
All right, we're gonna blow right by the New York versus Boston tension here. All right, before we jump into our demos, there's a couple things I wanted to talk to you guys about. Couple safety practices. So first of all, what's a good candidate for vibe coding? My general rule of thumb is if it's for you and your data, vibe away. If it's for other people and their data, it's probably best to work with IT. So some examples that are maybe things that might cause a red flag for you is like, for example, your company's expense submissions, or a list of employee names and emails, or customer names and emails, any comms, internal comms, such as meeting recordings. And I want to say, like, vibe coding, again, like we're using a product like Lovable or Replit. We're putting data into that product, and we may not always be able to guarantee that that product is number one, SOC 2 type, lockdown, maximum security. So treat vibe coding as kind of like it's no, it is on the internet. It is available for someone to find, and they might have to be pretty dedicated to find it, but they could find it. And so, use data use data responsibly, treat other people's data as you would want your data to be treated. And I will also just add that even if you want to do something that does fall into the category of like other people's personal information and their data, you can still use vibe coding to facilitate a conversation by working on using vibe coding with dummy data or publicly available data to prototype something and help with that conversation with IT. And so, again, I would say like don't let that necessarily dissuade you or disqualify an idea that you have from vibe coding. But I think, just knowing how to use data in a safe way is an important part of this. And, I love using Lovable, but I don't work for Lovable and I don't know how secure or how, I don't know that I can like totally trust them to put, I'm fine putting my email in there because I'm making that choice for myself. But if you're making that choice for other people, you have to think about like what they might like too. So with that little disclaimer, let's get into project one. So we are going to make a personal vibe code. And we're going to follow a process. So I'll leave this up as we work, but the main process that we use for vibe coding is, first of all, again, going back to the peanut butter challenge, we're going to chat with Claude to refine our prompt. And then we are going to move into Lovable. And there's two modes in Lovable. The first is plan mode. So we put our prompt in as plan mode. And then it's going to clarify some stuff. And then when we're ready, we can go into build mode and create our prompt. And then, of course, as we test and use it, we are going to iterate and further refine it. So I'm going to give a quick demo. Oops, let's see. I got to get out of my screen. Okay, here we go. So let me show y'all how I'm thinking about doing this. Let me grab my first prompt over here. So we are going to, we're going to do like a fun personal project. And you'll all have an opportunity to do this together after, but I love Wordle. And I want to build a Wordle style word game. And I also love animals. So I want my Wordle to be animal themed. So I've written this like prompt. And I'm going to work with Claude to refine this. So build me a Wordle style game. So hi, Claude. I'm working on a prototype. Ha ha ha. I hate typing in front of everyone, but here we go. And I need your help refining the prompt. Here it is. Okay. Let's see. So Claude is going to think about that. And so it's funny, I actually started not chatting to Claude with anything. I was like very direct with Claude. And since I've gotten Claude Desktop and I've started using Claude like my personal assistant, I've actually found it easier for me to treat Claude a little bit more like a human. So I have been including niceties to Claude, and I know that makes me silly, but I start live like, good morning, Claude. I am back. All right, awesome. So Claude has given me a fully refined prompt. And I don't want you to go ahead and build it. I want to paste it into Lovable. So I'm going to come into Lovable. You'll notice in Lovable we have this like chat and it's in plan mode automatically. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to paste what I got from Claude. And Claude would probably be the place to go back and forth and refine this a little bit. But anyways, let's see what this thinks. And it's going to be thinking, thinking, thinking. And this might take a minute. So for the purpose of the demo, what's going to happen is it's going to like make its best guess at what I want. I can swap to build mode down here when I'm done. Put it in build. And I will just show you, in the interest of time, the app I already made, which is the Beastle puzzle. And I won't play this for you all. Yeah, I can maximize my demo screen. Actually, okay, everyone, I'm gonna maximize this and then we're gonna go on an adventure to see if I can swap between all of these screens. So let's see what happens. Okay, that's bigger. And then can I go back to yes, I can. Okay. All right. So this is Beastle. Again, I won't play. Let's see. Let's guess something here. I'm not going to play this because in case I'm embarrassing myself with my Wordle skills, but all right, good. I'm glad that's working. But then you can see like this is where now we're in build mode. And so now I can go and refine it like, oh my gosh, I love it, but can it be in dark mode? And let's see. Oh, yeah, it's got to analyze this. Exciting. So
And
this
Hannah,
is,
maybe to connect this to your concept of like agents versus bots, what we're looking at here is Lovable's agent that is like making the thing. Like that's kind of the magic. Whereas when you were
yeah.
using Claude, we were in bot as chatbot mode. Claude was telling you, here's what you should tell Lovable. But if like Lovable, our friend, is in agent mode, and that's why it's magic because it's both thinking and actioning. Did I get that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, thanks, Roxanne.
Gotcha.
Um,
But don't make me do a Wordle guess. Everyone should know that Hannah bullied me for how bad I am at Wordle, and this is actually a deep troll that is happening.
it is a deep troll, which is why I'm not guessing, because now that I have put myself out there, we can't be taking on that risk. So, all right. So now you all have seen the demo. So I'm going to have you, it's time for everyone to vibe code. The moment is here. So we're going to have you pick your prompt. I have 3 prompts. You can make a Wordle game. You can do an activity tracker. So, like maybe a simple family activity tracker, a workout tracker that lets you maybe log in exercise, weight, and reps, or something else. If there's something that you have on your mind that you want to try and prototype, I'm going to have, yes, Ace is posting all of the prompts in the chat so you can grab them. And then we will go follow our process. So I'm going to leave this up on the screen. So if you want to check back in, you can start chatting with Claude to refine your prompt, go into Lovable in plan mode, then Lovable in build mode, and then test and iterate further. I'm going to give you all, I'm going to give everyone 12 minutes to do this. So I will see everyone back at the 40 mark. And I used to have a chime to bring everyone back, and I no longer have that chime. So I'm sorry, I'm just gonna pipe back up. But if you have, um, oh, Samantha, actually, we are gonna do a regulation tracker next together as a group. So if you are excited about that and you want to give it a shot, go wild, but just know we are going to get to that later. So, follow your heart here. Um, can Claude Code create as Lovable does? Yes, Claude Code can. Um, I why don't I let everyone get working and I will answer that question as we get underway. Folks, head off, refine your prompts, pick your prompts. I'm going to bring us back at the 40. And if you have problems or you run into a snag, pop up in the chat and we will get you sorted. Um, and with that, let me answer the question about Claude Code. So Claude Code does create what Lovable creates. So the difference with Lovable is very cool. Lovable is React, it will create React apps. React is a type of coding language that specifically is very good for showing different states of things, unlike, say, an HTML with JavaScript application, which is more for multiple pages and kind of like a more simple prototype. The thing with Claude, Lovable, the difference between Lovable and Claude Code is Lovable is more like driving an automatic car and Claude Code is manual. So if you are more advanced and you can pass that test to get the Lamborghini over 150 miles an hour, I would say go wild with Claude Code. And for those of us who are still like learning to drive, Lovable is a great place to get started.
One thing that I'll add to the group's conversation here too, because we had this question in the chat. The reason why we're focused on a personal project first is it's kind of a quick win to get used to vibe coding before you're doing something that's maybe a little more complex, maybe dealing with more sensitive information. It's a very easy way. You understand the scope implicitly because you understand your workout tracker or whatever it is that you want to build. And we will next get into something that you could practically use in your compliance role. But it often is this quick win to try something out that might apply in your personal life first.
Okay, folks, I am going to bring us back, and I would love to do a quick pulse check. 1 to 5. How scary was vibe coding for our V1 first practice round? Yeah, not scary. We're doing good. Amazing. Let me tell you all, I'm like a 5 because having to do that in front of everyone, really stressful. Awesome. Yeah, Lovable's pretty fun. So, I now it's time for everyone's cortisol to spike because we're gonna do a show and tell. So, I would love, I don't know if it's possible if I need to stop sharing or I can allow other people to share, but I would love for a couple folks to come off mute if you want to offer up in the comments, if you want to show off your project, um, and we will together figure out how to let you share your screens. I would love to see that. I want to see what everyone came up with. If you made something that's very broken, you can also show it too. I think that's important to see, and that's where all the learning happens. So if there's any brave volunteers to show something they've created, come on up.
I'm happy to try.
Samantha, I saw you on mute.
Yes, I haven't tested it because it took a while. So I did an conflict of interest advisor for line managers to guide them when a conflict of interest is declared, and they have to decide if a mitigation is possible and what types of mitigations. But let me try to share my screen.
Yeah, and I might need to stop sharing. So, this Athena facilitators, if you could help us here.
Yes, I don't know how to do this. It's asking me a bunch of questions, but it's not giving me the option to select a screen.
So Samantha, you're pressing the share button at the bottom of the Zoom window, and it's not allowing you to share.
Yes. So okay, now it's but now I'm sharing the wrong screen. 1 second.
I will stop sharing when you are ready.
Okay, I'm ready. Can you see it?
Um,
Yep. Yep, we're seeing it now, Samantha.
Okay. So start an assessment, right? That's how I prove it. Oh, it encountered an error. So, oh, there. Select the conflict type here, close personal relationship in a reporting line. So let's select this one. Not doing anything.
So it could be a few things here, Samantha, but it could be
Oh,
that
here.
error that was getting thrown. Oh, it did load. Okay.
So let's say romantic partner. Let's say, I don't know, stratum 4, direct oversight. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, right here. So high risk. Well, I asked it to explain why it's a conflict of interest. We have some situations where people don't understand why sometimes things are a conflict of interest. So high risk, can it be mitigated? No. Yeah, I mean, I agree with with this. So transfer to subordinate, yeah, they would have to change teams. Yeah, I think I really like it. I mean, I really think that this we've been asked to create something like this, and it took me 10 minutes. So yeah.
amazing. Let's get a round of applause for Samantha. Yeah. Yeah, so cool. So, so cool. and a great use of vibe coding and a great use of 10 minutes. Yeah, it's amazing how much you can get done in 10 minutes. Um, all right, Matt, I saw you volunteer to show something that's a little bit more in progress.
Uh,
So come
that's
on
a
up.
very polite way of saying it. So that I tried something that so far I can't get to work very well. But I was designing a simple medication tracker for, say, you have somebody going through cancer treatment and they've got a zillion meds. They have to take some twice a day, some once a day, some once a week. So that's what I asked it to build. Let me see if I can share my screen. And it looks pretty cool if you can see it. Um, because okay, here's what it would look like at the front, and I go add medications, and it's slot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You wind up taking a lot more than five, I can tell you that. But then when I click on it, it does not seem to allow me to add the medications. So I will keep tinkering with it, but I just wanted to be unafraid to show that we can try all this and it is all right if on your first effort, because this is mine, never done this before at all. It has not yet worked, but I'm tinkering with it.
Yeah, I love it. And Matt, that's definitely been my experience is I try and build something and then uh very quickly find and like the first look is like, wow, it's amazing. And then you click on something, you're like, uh-oh, it's broken. And that is when I just go right back to the chat on the side of Lovable and say, hey, Lovable, it's broken. Tell me what's wrong. And it will take a first pass. You can kind of work together. I mean, I treat it like a coworker. Andrew, I see you have your hand up. So let's hear from you.
Yes, so it is exam time for kids around the country, and so I thought I'd have a go at developing a mini math testing app for my three boys. And so I got Lovable to develop. I'll show it on screen. I got it to develop a, where is it? Here we go. So I asked using Claude, I got it to develop the prompt like you suggested. And I asked it to develop three different programs for my three boys who are different ages, different grades. I asked it to get progressively more harder so that it would learn and target the weak spots where the boys would get the questions wrong. And you can see it went through some debugging, but you can see over on the left-hand side the questions. This is kind of in demo mode. Um, and you can, there's a mix of multiple choice questions and then free text responses, and it will grade the responses. And it then has a parent portal where you can click on it and you can, and we can kind of dive in to see how the boys have done over successive tests. And it took 6 minutes.
That is awesome. Yeah, so cool. And I also want to call attention to where in your prompt you're showing your chat, you're asking it, like, please double check it's still not working.
Yeah.
It's totally fine for stuff not to work. You just got to call it out to Lovable, say, hey, I'm having a problem, and it will go back and work for you.
Yeah,
And
it took a
actually,
couple of iterations for it to
yeah,
kind of like work it to effectively debug itself. But it figured it out in the end within a couple of minutes. I did notice it flipped over between plan and build mode while it was doing that almost
mhm.
automatically, but that's just something to bear in mind.
I'm sorry, the comments just really got me. Um, Andrew, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, let me get us back into my share mode. Um, Let me see. And okay. Alrighty. So, squad. Oh, and now my chat is gone. Hold on one second. Let me get reoriented here. Ah, phew. Okay. Thank you for showing and telling. Those were amazing. Those were great examples. I want to just first quick pulse check. How likely are you to try using Lovable on your own? Yeah, a lot of cool, encouraging stuff in here. Um, for those of you who are three, Andy, I'm gonna pick on you. Will you actually come off mute and share like kind of what your experience was, and maybe what you'd really ideally be looking for in a vibe coding tool?
Yeah, if you can you hear me? My computer's acting up. So I think there's a background.
We can hear you though, Andy.
Okay. I was struggling with, I was trying the example of the gym app and, tracking reps and things like that. And I ended up getting stuck for almost the whole 10 minutes of just even asking Lovable, fix, why can't I see the reps? Why can't I see the history? Um, so I will play with it more. I'm excited about it. And so, but I got a little stuck this time. That's why I put it through.
Yeah, I think that's really valid, and I'll share in a minute. Like it happens a lot, and I have getting stuck and kind of feeling like you're in a loop. So I'll share a little bit more about what to do when that happens because it is very real and it does happen. Um, and then yes, definitely bring the project to office hours. We can dig in more. All right, squad, I want to congratulate everyone. First project done, dusted, generally positive experiences. We worked through some stuff and now you have officially vibe coded. So head on over to the engineering team, tell them if they need anyone, like you're available. And I hope this is going to build up some confidence because the next thing we're going to tackle is a little bit more challenging. So shake it out, get loose, take a deep breath, have a water. We're going to start on project 2. We're going to build a regulator and enforcement digest, basically the dashboard that Matt wishes he had every morning. And we're going to start with a little bit of story time because, spoiler, I already tried to build this and it's a little bit challenging. So here's the use case. Matt, our gracious host here, Matt has a number of websites he regularly checks for compliance related updates and guidance. So his current workflow is to visit each site, scan for the updates. And most of the updates, the sites are kind of organized by recent updates at the top, and he's a regular visitor, so he kind of knows what he's looking for at a glance. But he searches like a total of 10 websites, and there might be other resources he would want to look at if the process was less manual. So wouldn't it be great if he had all of those in a single digest or just in a place he could get it on a click? So um, I tried to do this. It's a little bit more complicated than coding a personal app, and so I'll walk you through what I kind of experienced, and then we're going to do it together. So I started with a prompt. Build a personal compliance digest web app. I want it to run entirely in the browser with no backend. I want all the settings to be stored in local storage. And there were a few other things I had to specify. And I didn't get to this prompt on my own. I worked with Claude to kind of refine this. I wouldn't have known about local storage. I'll just be honest. So there were a couple of things that I had to specify that were helpers to make this work on Lovable. The first is this thing called CORS proxy. And basically what it does is it grabs each URL and it pulls in the content from that URL to my website. And it can be prone to errors. And sometimes, and Claude did advise me that that might be challenging to work with. And then I also asked it to give a summary of the entries. And in order to do that, I needed AI to summarize the content. So I was going to need an API key from Anthropic to kind of summarize the content that it was pulling back in. Seems kind of intimidating. How hard can it be? I ended up running into problems with both of these things. So I asked Lovable to help me. The CORS proxy wasn't working when that errored. I had kind of known it would be a challenge. It was a little bit hard to dig out the API key. It was going to charge me a little extra money. I was like, oh, API key seems intimidating. I'm going to go back to Lovable. So I was like, this is hard. Help me. And so Lovable had a couple suggestions. It said you can switch to Lovable AI Gateway, which is what it recommended to me. And ultimately I did. It said it could keep it fully client side with no AI. Or I said I could bring my own key for a cheaper provider, which was beyond my skill level. So I asked it to switch to Lovable Gateway and use the Lovable Cloud. And that worked, but there were some issues with the URLs it was pulling in. So eventually, I opted to use RSS feeds instead of the URL. And so not all the website URLs were RSS feeds, but I found a free converter to convert it, and I got a working prototype. And so that took me 45 minutes. It probably took me an hour altogether. So that's what you can get in an hour of work. And I'm showing this just to say that, like, some things, I think if you had asked someone with a computer science degree how to do this, they would have come up with all of this on the first try. And they would have told me that all this stuff would be hard. But I don't have a CS degree, and that's okay. This is how you learn. So I did eventually get to the prototype, and it took an hour, which, like, previously I would have never tried to do this, and maybe I could have stumbled through. I can write some HTML, so I maybe in a couple of weeks could have done this after work, working every single day, but I'll still take an hour. And the one thing I want to share with you, kind of going back to the previous content, is the question is, like, you do end up hitting roadblocks and snags. And if you find yourself asking the AI to solve the same problem over and over again, chances are that it's just very hard to solve. And again, like, someone with a CS degree might know this, but, like, we don't. And so when you hit a roadblock like that, I recommend just kind of stepping back, taking a breath, and trying a different approach. It may just be that the pipes that the internet is built on are just not set up to work that way, and you need to take a different approach. So with that, it's your turn. I have refined the prompt a little bit so that hopefully you all do not hit my roadblocks and we can learn from me. So I have created the starting prompt, and I've also created all of the RSS feeds. Some of them are better than others. Ace has this prompt. He's going to paste this in the chat so you can work off of this, because this is not the complete thing. But we're going to do the same process. So we're going to go into Claude, refine our prompt. You'll notice in this prompt, I included the copy. I'm using Lovable. And so I think some folks, like, hit a snag earlier because Claude was like, obviously you want me to do it. But you're telling Claude that you're using Lovable, and then so you're going to refine it, go into plan mode, review your plan, approve it, go into build mode, and then test and iterate to further refine it. And with that, I'm going to give everyone 15 minutes this time to work on it. But if we're feeling like that's maybe too much time, we can come back a little bit sooner. And with that, any questions before we get into this? Yes, same instruction applies. If you have a problem, want a breakout room, get stuck, just pop into the chat and we will unstick you. All right. With that, go forth and code. The prompt is split into 2 messages, so please use both of those messages. And again, like, there's some jargon in here, so if it's asking you questions about stuff you don't know, just open up another Claude message and say, what is this? And it will tell you. And then you can kind of go back into your regular chat. That's how I would recommend using it. And I will see you all back at the 15. I gotta say, Matt's just really embodying the essence of a vibe code, which is like just operating off vibes. And I think that's kind of the mode. I mean, that's how vibe coding was originally created. It was engineers who were just opening up ChatGPT and saying like, yep, yep, yep to everything and coming up with like pretty good results. So if you want to take the I'm going with the flow approach, that is totally fine. That's what vibe coding is all about. I also want to clarify there's parts of this prompt that we haven't really talked about. It's a little bit more complicated because there's a back end portion of this prompt and a front end portion of this prompt. And so for if you're not technical, you don't hang out with engineers all the time like I do, I will just briefly explain. The front end portion is the stuff that you see. So that's the interface. The back end is all of the data and the stuff that you don't see. And so that's why some of this prompt is split into those two things. So the backend part of the prompt is important to include, even though you might not like necessarily see what's going on in there. And if you start to kind of get more experience with vibe coding, get a little bit more ambitious, you will run into that more where you will specify what things you want to happen on the back end versus what things you want to happen on the front end. And that's just something you pick up kind of in the background or just being around these tools. For today, you don't have to necessarily know the difference, but if you keep doing this, you'll just get more familiar with it, and it will feel more natural. Okay, another cool thing is we've all fed the same prompt into Lovable. It, but AI is non-deterministic, and so we will get back almost 35 different apps. And so when we do the show and tell, I am actually very curious to see what people come up with, because yeah, it will be completely different, and that's also it's cool. And also the annoying part of AI is that you can enter this prompt in 100 different times, and you might get 100 different results. So sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating if you want to recreate something very specific. Um, but also the benefit is that there's different ways to interpret information, and we might see something that someone else has gotten a result for that's really cool that we want to incorporate. And so that's another cool aspect here.
But Hannah, if I can just chime in, the reason that question stuck on my mind is, all right, so we're all doing apps for ourselves, but if you have a larger compliance team and they each start wheeling up their own app for like processing conflict of interest reports, you don't necessarily know how each app is going to interpret things. Like you can't have that at scale. It has to be the same app handling the same app's data, doing the same results time after time. I think a lot these days about how are we actually going to scale up a lot of AI across a whole team, across a whole enterprise. And this, like, I would immediately start thinking, well, no, I can't have every single compliance team in all different regions scale up their own policy chatbot because it's not going to handle the same thing the same way. Or my IT guy, whom I personally don't have, but you do, like they would shoot us because they're going to have to reinvent their security assessments all the time. It's just, I was curious about if we give the same thing to the same app, will it give us the same result? And no. And it's just, I don't know. I made my.
Yeah. Matt, this came up. Well, first, no one's going to get shot by IT or otherwise. This is a safe, fun class. But this came up in the talk we did last week at Compliance Week. Joyce, CCO of Zendesk, their team has been vibe coding a lot, and she talked about the concept of something as like a meal versus a snack versus a buffet. Meal being your personal project, snack being something the whole compliance team uses, buffet being something the whole company uses, and the need to like standardize when you're doing something that's broader than just your own fitness tracking app, in addition to the security concerns, which are, I was just listening to a podcast like Hannah, we will share all of these, and the estimate was vibe coded apps are about 3 times as likely as non-vibe coded apps to get hacked. And so, again, for someone learning what my bench press is, I'm actually quite proud of that number and I'm happy to blast it far and wide. But if, that was like your conflicts of interest data, probably not great. So I think you're exactly right, Matt, that thinking through what are the great use cases for vibe coding among a team is an important exercise.
But I have a follow-up question. If you give it a detailed enough prompt where you say like you take, I don't know, 10 situations that are the most common and you tell it exactly how it should provide advice and what it should say. And these are general situations, so with no private information, but just like, romantic relationship or interest in a supplier, whatever it is. And then you take that app and you put it in your SharePoint, it will give always the same advice if the same situations are selected, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think actually your app is a great example of a very effective vibe code that has a real help for you as a business, but doesn't require any kind of proprietary or personal data. So, like, that's very cool and awesome. The only thing is sometimes if you have a reasoning part of it, like everything that you shared in yours was very much like it's a pick list, there's like yes, no answers. But if there was a place for AI to maybe like grade an open response or something like that, I have sometimes gotten like pretty wild things back of like, if you ask it like, is this correct answer is every color that's green, and you type in like blue and it's like that's right, and you're like not today AI. So sometimes as an open-ended question you can run into issues, but I think with yours, it's very like logic tree focused. um Great example, I think, of something like that could be really effective.
So that would be low risk. There would be very low risk of it triggering different types of responses.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. And I think what Matt was
Okay.
kind of bringing up is like if every person on your team vibe coded their own version of that, then you might get some variation. Um, and I think it comes back to like, how do you organize this at scale? I think, if everyone's headed in their own direction without AI, it's a little bit chaotic. But if everyone's headed with their own direction with AI, it's like a lot faster and a lot more chaos. So, from an organizational perspective, um, I think it's worth some thought. And it's an interesting conversation. All right, we are at the 15. I'm going to bring us all back. I'm very excited to see what you've all created. Let's do another show and tell. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to let someone, if anyone wants to come off mute, volunteer to show us what they've created. I'm excited to see. No takers. It's okay. I'm fine. I can sit in silence. I'm very comfortable.
Laura, could I ask just one question back to that for a quick second? So I got the two distinctions between Matt and Sam's question, but if everybody did the same vibe code in the same tool, is the output the same?
Nope.
No, even the output. So yeah, I mean that's a bit concerning. Yeah.
Yeah, Scott, one thing that I had to like it and it took me a while and I still have to remind myself of it is like I I'm an Excel gal. I loved macros. I loved all of that of like if I plug in this formula, I know what the output is going to be and if there's a problem, it's because I need to adjust my formula. This is so different from that. This is more iterative and even if I give it the exact same formula at the same time, it might be slightly different each time. So there is that like additional iteration and kind of also need to do additional reviews on it to ensure that it really is what you're looking for there.
Thanks, Matt. We would love to see what you've created. Oh, and Matt, I don't know if you're on mute.
Oh, there. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So I know that at least some of these things absolutely are true because I've seen some of these results before when I've been looking up on the regulators' websites. Mostly it's Financial Conduct Authority stuff from, I guess, last night. I don't check the FCA every day, but like, where was it? Further down here, SEC litigation release. I saw that the other day. And there was another one involving Elon Musk and the settlement he tried to reach with the SEC. Let me see if I can filter it. Elon and Elon Musk irrevocable trust. Yes, this was the baloney thing about when he invested in Twitter and didn't tell anybody. So like it's tracking the right things. I haven't done a thorough check of exactly how accurate it is yet, but it seems like it's catching everything that I would normally expect to see. There's California. That's the only state that I had fed into it. So there we have.
Matt, you said something positive about AI. How does it sort of feel? Like
I mean, it it feels fine. I mean, from what I can see so far, that works. On a practical level, like, so what had I been doing to track all of these websites and many more? I have to check about 30 every day. I just have all of the individual websites bookmarked in one bookmark tab, and then I open them all at once and then just hopscotch through all of them. I do it about twice a day. That's a look behind radical compliance and where the news comes from. Um, so I would be thinking my biggest challenge here would be, do I trust that the AI has actually captured what's on each individual page? And ultimately, like, I'm more worried about, have I indexed all the right pages? And probably out of the 30 or so I actually check every day, I would guess at least 7 or 8 of them are probably useless to me now.
hmm.
Um, and, how do I keep that content fresh and relevant as opposed to just scanning through all 25 tabs I have open at once, knowing at least 5 or 10 of them are probably useless and I'm just too lazy to kill them out of my system. So it's like ongoing maintenance issues I worry about. But in theory, could this work? Yes. Do I trust it? Kind of, sort of, but I'm not a very trusting person. So that's just me. But, it's impressive.
Well, and I think your point is a really good one of like, if you built a fitness tracker or something over the next couple of weeks, try to like log some lifts and then go in and see, did it get it right? Like, where does it break? Because I think that's a really important, like, iterative process, both for trust building or for if you're like, yeah, it is broken. It's a really good, like, debugging exercise.
All right, folks, let's do a round of applause for Matt. Thank you for sharing, and a round of applause for yourselves for doing this very technical build. Let me share again. And I have one final thing I want to show you all before we move into office hours. Let's see. I think I have a pulse check in here. Quick pulse check in the chat. If everyone could just share a couple things, maybe one short anecdote about what you found really challenging about this. I've had a lot of wins, but I think this one was more challenging. So pop that in the chat. And I am going to talk to you folks about an alternative solution, which does include Claude, because Claude is so annoying and wants to be part of every part of our lives. So there is another way to do this. It involves agents. I had mentioned agents exist earlier when we were chatting. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them now. Again, they're a software program that autonomously achieve specific goals by reasoning, planning, and using tools to take action in its environment. So Claude Cowork, OpenClaw, Gumloop, Cursor, Perplexity, those are all examples of agents that you can use. I will show you this in Claude today. And what makes an agent good for stuff like this? It's a repetitive task. It's prompted by you or at a specific time. It doesn't necessarily need UI for this, and you can get raw data in any format, and you can kind of refine it. So let me show you what I ended up doing. So I used Claude a lot as I was working on this prompt and on this deck quite a bit. And so at the end of our chat, after Claude had helped me create all of these RSS feeds, and I had said, like, you know, I don't know that this UI is like necessarily perfect for me. I actually asked Claude to create a skill for me. So I said, I was in Cowork and I said, Claude, I want to actually do this every day and it's something I want to prompt. Can you make this a skill? And what it did was it built a skill, which I can now access. So if you backslash, I'm in Claude Cowork, I can backslash regulator digest and run it. And it's going to take a second, but it will basically do all the things that Matt's app went to do, but just within my Claude interface. And it will bring back a lot of text. So not a beautiful interface that I can filter necessarily, but it's just another way to get something done. And this pup's gonna like work for a minute. It's not gonna be instant because it has to go look at every single one of these pages. But if you find yourself doing something like this, or you maybe want to find yourself like, oh, I'd like to create an app, but maybe I'm having an issue with building out the UI, or I find that the UI is cumbersome, or maybe like Matt, you're like, I don't really trust this, and I need a way to like quickly verify it. Making a skill is a good way to kind of run a repetitive task like this. And I have a couple different skills that I use. I have one that reads a lot of my Slacks and summarizes my Slacks for me. I have one that reads a lot of emails and summarizes email threads for me. And I think, like what you've been working on with Lovable, it's not right on the first shot. So I actually do a lot of like, thanks for the update, Claude, but like you didn't format it exactly the way I wanted it to. And, you can keep iterating on these things. But an agent is like another alternative solution. And so if you want to talk more about agents or maybe set something like this up, come to office hours. We can like work on it or work on your Lovable apps. I'm going to let this work for a little bit and just do a couple of my wrap up slides while this is toiling away. Oh no, something's happening. Yes. Here we go. I didn't even have to vamp. I have this set for the last 7 days because I don't know that there's necessarily like a daily update, but you can make it go for whatever time you want or have it just be like new since you last checked. But it went and checked all of those websites and now it's giving me summaries for each of those things and like links to read more for each one. And so if you're like, Lovable's fun, but I kind of want to just use my keyboard, an agent is the way to go. So Claude desktop app is where you access this. It's in Cowork. We can talk more about it at office hours. And with that, I think we are at my wrap-up slides. So I'm going to leave you folks with some totally optional homework. No pressure, but if you're feeling stoked about this, pick one of today's projects, refine it, show it to a colleague. I challenge you. I think you're going to wow them. And another thing to think about is maybe prototyping a tool that you would use in your day-to-day. Samantha, I think you had a great example. And then, book a convo with IT to talk about what it would take to make that a reality. I think, we can sit here and like opine all we want on the theories of like what might be an appropriate use of a vibe coded tool, but best to just bring that right to your IT partners and say like, hey, I created this cool thing. Is this something we can use? Always good to play within the rules there. So that is my ask for all of you folks. And I want to say thank you for being an amazing crew. Thank you for coming with your open minds and open hearts and giving vibe coding a try. ACE has some resources for you all, which I think will be available to you. Let's see. But I will turn it over to the rest of the team to follow up on sessions 2, 3, and some resources. And with that, thank you all so much. I very much appreciate it. I love talking about this stuff. And so please come to office hours. We can chat more. And yes, over to Roxanne and Matt, my wonderful hosts.
Sure. Well, thank you, Hannah Lord. That was awesome. I have never done any of this before, and it was really interesting. So our next session will be 1 week from today, where we're going to be talking about mostly video content. Whereas this session was how do you build something for all sorts of processes you might have on mind. Next week is going to be one process, which is making video for training or something like that. And we'll go through the same sort of format. We have a couple of tools that you can look at. You can come up with an experiment or two. Third session, which is 2 weeks from today, is going to be more about how to build your own GPT sort of engine if you want to do something like a policy chatbot. And how would that work? Where do you get the information to feed it in? How do you actually build the thing? It will be the same sort of format again, where we're going to have some Athena gurus who are going to walk us through it. And then that's it. It's going to be a whole lot of hands-on stuff. It's going to be a whole lot of experimentation. There will be office hours like there is from right now until 4 p.m. Eastern, 30 minutes from now. So if you do want to still tinker with something, you can stick around. If you've got a day job you want to get back to, then you can proceed, and we'll see you next week. You can add in comments and whatnot on the community section of the Compliance School AI website, which is there for all of us. So take advantage of it. We are all together in this for another 2 classes. But that's pretty much it. Roxanne, I don't know if you have any other farewell thoughts, but this has been great.
No, so appreciate it. Samantha saw your questions. We'll make sure to get to that. And I think we're staying in this Zoom for breakout sessions. So if you wanted to hang, no pressure, but a bunch of us will be here. We can do breakout rooms, etc. So feel free to drop if you're done. Sam, do you want to let us, or Samantha, do you want to let us know your question?
Yes, my question is around translation. So let's say I create an app and I'm happy with it. And now we all discuss that if I create it again in a different language, it will be different, which is a problem. But we have 5 languages in my company. So I don't know if you have any comments around that. Like, would I be able to pull the code and then do it? I don't know.
Great question. Erin, looks like you've got
I'm like, oh, I
thoughts.
love this
Share your
one.
thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. So Samantha,
Go ahead.
I don't maybe have a perfect like solution, like it's worth testing out a bit, but what I've seen work well for translations is rather than saying, okay, I'm going to try to recreate this application in Spanish and then French and then German. Instead, for that one application you've already created, prompt Lovable to incorporate in a translation drop-down menu so that it's all in the same one and that that's a feature of your application versus having 5 different applications, because then it will be more consistent across all of them. So that would be my recommendation there.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And another question, quick question. When you like in for this regulatory horizon scanning tool, in your experience, is it better if you need to do this across 10 jurisdictions? Would it be better to create 10 different tools for each jurisdiction? Would the tool be more reliable instead of building like a huge prompt with a huge tool, or for one tool? Or I don't know, any remarks in that regard?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I think there are pros and cons of each. Your pro of keeping it all in one application is the overall experience is going to be consistent and you're going to one place to make changes and updates. I lean towards that option. The only reason I'd say spin up a bunch of different ones is if you wanted them to be like laser focused on that jurisdiction, hyper experts, and you wanted to be able to drill down to that level of detail every single time. But from what you've described so far, Samantha, I would lean towards like getting as much into your main app as possible and continuing to think of these different things as features versus brand new apps.
Okay, thank you.
Give them filters. Like you could filter out the 8 you don't need today or the 3 that your Asia Pacific team does need.
Yeah. The other hack, I don't even know if it's a hack or not, but what I sometimes do with this kind of thing too is I will say to Claude in a separate instance, I'm your business partner and you're my engineering lead. Here's what I'm trying to solve. Give me some recommendations here. And that makes it so that it also remembers, because sometimes when it's thinking code, it starts then throwing all this technical jargon at you. You don't want that. You want it to still be thinking of you as the business partner. And so that can help really drive some of that as well.
I have really liked ramble mode, which is just a term for like, put on voice. So in Claude, when Handler had it up, there's like a little, yeah, mic at the bottom, you could use like a built-in mic or whatever. But I have a walking treadmill that I love, and I feel like my rambling thoughts happen on, so like I'm trying to do this thing and like blah 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 blah. Claude, like help me to consolidate my thoughts. Like that can be really helpful when you're just sort of in your really early stages of iteration. And then your hands can go like this. Claude can still understand you.
A use case that I was thinking about, I mean, I think the second prompt was a little bit more, or the second exercise was a little bit more difficult for me to digest just because it isn't my area of like, it's not my industry. And so it was sort of felt more like a copy paste exercise versus like actually getting in it and knowing what it is that I'm doing. And so the technical jargon was tough, but then on top of that, layering that this is like something completely not in my realm, right? And so one of the things that I've been thinking about is just like state legislation, right? I'm in HR. So like things that like keep me up at night or like the state did something and I didn't know about it, right? Like Indiana all of a sudden is saying that vacation is earned wages. I'm making that up, right? I don't know if it's Indiana specifically, but like one of the states has all of a sudden made this legislature that says that vacation is viewed as earned wages, so you have to pay out upon termination. So I know with this that there were like specific websites that Matt, like himself, just knows to regularly go to. I think this also lends into his like teasing out that thought process of like, what if there is like a new website that comes out that is like absolutely incredible and it tells you everything and you're just not aware and you're not bringing it in. So like one of the things that I've been thinking about and toying with is like how if I don't know the websites for it to pull from, like, have you had success in giving it the prompt, right? To say, hey, I want you to look at the state legislative website that is coming straight from the horse's mouth type of thing. I want you to scan for any updates that relate to XYZ, and I want you to give that to me in like in a digestible format, or I want you to prompt me when you see something or anything like that. That's kind of like more of the use case that I've been thinking about, like, leaves even, or, all of these like sort of updates, like, who has time to look at Sherm's emails that tell you XYZ happened in this tiny little city of in the middle of nowhere type of thing. Any thoughts or suggestions or helpful prompts or anybody had success with doing something like that? I know that was a lot.
No, it was a really good one. I think that one thing that I've heard from a few folks and have tested myself a bit is like the more you can get to the source, like what you were describing of like, should I go to like where it's just a block of a ton of text and information, like getting that source information and prompting it to go there, and then having Claude or Lovable or whatever tool you're using do the heavy lifting of putting it in a format that you are looking for. That can cut out some of the like middlemen of like, oh, like this website over here, this one over there, like because and this is new, like we now have the ability to make it so that the format process and all of that is happening within the AI tooling instead of finding that website that you like prefer the usability of. You actually get to like be in the driver's seat of what that is going to look like.
You could certainly ask it for suggestions on websites and material, but I do think there is a subject matter expertise that Andrew may know a great one on X, Y, and Z, and you're just from your camaraderie and your connections, and you can always supplement and add that to the mix. I mean, that's the way I would sort of look at it as things emerge and you find out about them. But I guess the way I would look at it is if you didn't know about it in the first place, to manually scan it wouldn't really, I mean, as you grow and expand those knowledge sources, I think you could just figure out how to incorporate them.
It seems like folks want to say, which is super fun. If no one has specific questions, Aaron, this is me totally putting you on the spot. So if you're like, no, thanks,
All
hard
good.
pass,
All
I would
good.
understand. Do you want to show, I don't know if you have like Lovable or Claude up in a way that you could just show a couple of the little like, buttons and features that you found particularly useful. Again, if
Oh,
you're like, no, Roxanne,
yeah.
that's absolutely not what I was planning on doing, I would understand. But I just sometimes find like I really love, for example, watching podcasts that have a video component on AI and watching people poke around because like that's how my brain best ingests it. So sometimes it can be kind of fun to watch
Yeah.
a
Let
I would
me
imagine this is what people do on Twitch where they watch people play video games. I don't exactly know how any of that works.
I do not either, but let me pull some things up here. And while I'm doing that, I know that one like thing that a lot of folks called out was kind of the technical jargon piece being really challenging here. Um, I'm kind of curious to hear from folks if you feel comfortable sharing. What about that is challenging? Is it that you're like, oh, I don't know what this is, and therefore I don't know what the next action is going to do? Is it something else? Like I'm kind of curious to hear or go into that additional layer of detail on that piece. And I promise I am pulling stuff up on this side as well.
I mean, I think for me, I mean, so the great part was like here's all the sources and things, and are going to create this dashboard, and then like you're it's like, oh my God, here's the back end stuff. And while it might
Yeah.
take you all an hour to get to that, I feel like it would take me, not 6 weeks, but probably pretty close. So that's the part. No, I just wanted to do the first half. The back, that stuff should be in the back of the scenes. I don't need to go back and forth with that, or don't want to go back and forth. Just do it.
Yeah. No, that like I run into that too, Scott, where like I feel like I'm getting like asked every 5 seconds, like, can I do this? Can I do this? Is this okay? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe go for it. There are some ways to train whichever instance of like Claude or any agent like that you're working with to do that less. But I found that that does take some time and some like repeated motion with all of these too. And it's funny, like you could spin up another instance of Claude tomorrow and you might for some reason get the version of it that's uh, a little more risk ready and just goes for it. So it's interesting to play around kind of with the variation there. Um, all right, let me pull up. Oh wait, Claire, I see you've got a question too before I pull anything up here. Um, so everything that you did via Lovable, you could do with Claude. Um, we do have access to Claude as a business, but not Lovable. So yes, so Claire, you can do a lot of the things that we walked through today with Claude Code as well. The only caveat I would give there is the like so typically with Lovable, that like prototype or app example that you're seeing as you go through it, that's through React. Sometimes Claude Code will use that. Sometimes it'll use different options as well. So it sometimes is a little bit more on the technical jargony side than Lovable is, because Lovable has like trained an additional layer on top of theirs to be a little bit more business friendly. But in terms of like capability, there is a lot of parity with what you can do with both.
Awesome. Thank you so
And
much.
and I have sorry, go ahead, Claire.
That's it. Go ahead.
If we want to so have a backend to the app so that we can like see what questions were asked to the app we created and have that data so it would guide us to show us what our employees are using the app for and what are the most asked questions. Do we have to include that in the prompt to have like some sort of like reporting or I don't know, something like that? Okay.
You do, yes. So you would want to add as another feature that reporting capability. And one thing is like the good news is like you can iterate on any of this too. Like you'll oftentimes I find like for any app that I build or create or mock up, the first iteration, like that starts the wheels turning of like, oh, what else is possible here? Like, oh, I could actually get the reporting. Oh, I could actually have this in different languages. So it's totally okay to keep and continuously be iterating there.
Um,
Um, oh
and
yeah, go ahead.
Aaron, if you want, I could show an example of this that I think actually
Yes, please do, Chris. That would
people
be
on the call,
great.
yeah, they might find interesting. So I think probably most of you have seen our complianceschool.ai website. And so hopefully this is screen sharing correctly now. I think it is. Maybe I can get a thumbs up. Yeah, Aaron, is it screen share? Okay, yeah, good. So I think a lot of you have seen this website that outlines what this course is that you're in now. Big surprise, we built this entire site in Lovable. And all of you would see these navigation items, but for the people that are administrators of the website, we actually used Lovable to build out an entire back end to manage what people see on the front end. So there's a whole CMS, content management system, that allows us to edit all of the various different pieces that sit on the front end of the site. We can see all the users that are all registered. We can manage all of the various different cohorts, open them up, close them. This resources section that we've just spun up recently here manages the resources that we'll share out. We have a whole waitlist functionality. We actually have this all syncing over to a tool called HubSpot that we use to email all of you. Our whole community has a set of moderation capabilities. So if somebody posts something that we think should be pulled down, we can pull it down, we can delete it, we can pin stuff up to the top. I think a lot of you did this checklist beforehand. We had Lovable build out an entire checklist functionality for us. So all the front end users see the very simple, clean front end. That's the course, the resources, the community. But for Athena employees, we can get into the back end and see it all. So I think that's a parallel, Samantha, to what you were talking about, where you could have an entirely separate view from all of your users, where you can manage things and see things and report on it. And it's really quite powerful. It's surprising within just a few prompts how it can give you a lot of these tools.
Great, thank you.
Great, Chris. Michelle, I see you've got a question on can either of these tools pull in documents to reference like a COI policy? Let me show. I actually do have something relevant to show here to that, because it's like a little bit maybe different from that, but the short answer is yes, you can do that. So let me know, is my screen showing up okay? Okay. So one thing, and let me just move that like this. There we go. So one thing that I'll note here is, so I work in sales engineering and solutions engineering. So a lot of my world is pulling a bunch of policy documentation together to answer security questionnaires that I'm sure some of you have seen before of is this vendor that we're looking at compliant? Are they SOC 2 certified? Are they aligned to our values and all of that? So what I actually do for any of those that come our way from anyone that's looking to understand that a bit more is I actually have a project in Claude where I have given it instructions on okay, here's who you are, here's how you should be operating, here's the response style I want. And I'll be honest, Claude also helped me write these instructions too. So a little bit of a best practice there. How to work with me, all of the gaps. And then from there, I've actually given it access to a bunch of policy documents, things like from our trust center, information and details on how we operate as an organization, as well as different links as well. And from here, what I'm able to do is either ask it a single question from any of this information, or I can paste in full sets of questions as well. So let me think of one and we'll see if it works. I was playing around with this a little bit earlier this morning. So if we get an error, try not to judge me too much. Is Athena SOC 2 compliant? Now I know the answer to this is yes. So we'll see if Claude also knows that. Yes. So gives me all of this in great detail right away, lets me know, and I'm able to carry on. Michelle, I'm curious, what were you picturing with a way to be using?
So right now we have our code of conduct and conflicts of interest policy as part of a gem. We're Google based.
Nice.
So
Yep.
And I can copy and paste the disclosure and put it through that gem, but it's only I have access to it. There's no historical. So if we're looking to make something more self-serve, like what Samantha prepared, I'm just wondering how we can kind of merge the two, similar functions be that way, or even just have it as a question, self-serve question and answer capability as well. But going based off our policy, because we have 12 different categories in our conflicts of interest
Yeah.
policy that someone could fall into. So just trying to
Yeah.
streamline, so they can get quite complicated, different SMEs are involved, things like that. So
Yeah. So streamlining that response process. So part of that will be like creating that like centralized place that folks can go. The other is prompting it to make sure that it's like responding in the way that you want it to consistently do so. So there certainly is some work that goes into that behind the scenes of like how do you make sure that you're training it to get those consistent answers, but it's absolutely like in the realm of possible things. I think that's a really good use case.
awesome. Yeah, the gym has been super helpful. I made
Nice.
responses faster, but we also want to have like the self-serve question and answer component to it that's available to the company at large.
Nice.
Thanks.
Roxanne, I just saw your note here. I have that ready to share with folks actually. So
that could be a fun one.
yeah. So I don't have the behind the scenes stuff is on my personal device on using Claude Code, but I can show you all because I know there were some questions of like, can we do this kind of stuff using Claude Code as well as Lovable? And I tend to lean towards using Claude Code just because the more I can use just one tool, the better. So one thing I'll note is to Roxanne's point, as a new hire that was starting at Athena, one thing that I recognized right away was like, oh, I need to get up to speed on some of this compliance jargon. I know we were talking technical jargon, like compliance has plenty of jargon as well. So what I ended up building out with Claude Code is a little game, if you will, that I referred to as Compliance Crunch. And I had a few different options here. One was just like, let's do some flashcards, while we're watching TV. Let's see if I've got it or if I'm still learning. But then also when I'm feeling more competitive with myself, saying, okay, let's have a game and ask questions. I'm not actually reading this, so please do not judge me as I'm going through this and be like, what the heck is she doing? But you're able to really quickly and easily like create these kinds of things just for yourself sometimes too, which can be quite fun.
I liked that one, Eric. I thought it was a fun one, and I will admit that I did not get a passing score. But in my defense, it had like ed tech, health tech.
Some of it was unfair, in my opinion. Yeah.
But maybe to Joyce's point, in case this is helpful from referencing the talk we did last week, I think the more like multiplayer you get, you introduce complexity, and that's really cool. So multiplayer being like if Aaron just builds an app just for Aaron, no problem. But if I need to go in, you sort of now ask like, oh, well, do I want Roxanne to log in as Roxanne and Aaron to log in as Aaron? Do I need to remember, each of their instances? And that's not to say it becomes impossible, but just on the like Michelle, your example of if it's sort of a place where you want employees to go and sort of ask a question, but you want to be able to verify it. Like you just introduce layers and layers of complexity. And like, my general experience with AI has been like nothing is impossible. It's just sometimes it's like might really be pushing the limits of for me a non-technical person and my both like intellectual capacity and capacity for frustration and being like, okay, at a certain point I'm like I'm done here. So I think that kind of like multiplayer is another element. Chris made a very fun game, for example, for his kids. It's like a guess the Pokemon sort of thing. And that I think he built in Replit, which is very similar to Lovable. And there's also like a Google version. I want to say it's like Stitch or something. And I think at least last time I checked, it was free. So you can also, if you just have a Gmail or something, you could go check Google's version of this. And that was very fun. And but you did need to like log in. And that just like takes a minute to kind of figure that out.
Random 101 question, or maybe it's like 0.001. I'm not even at number one yet. What we did today, like in Lovable, does that stay there? Is it saved? How do we go back to find it? I am like,
yeah, no, and that's not that's not a one whatever number you gave there, Christy. That's a
like
very fair
one.
question. And I've had moments where I've been like, wait, did I need to hit a save button that I didn't see or know about? So good news is like Lovable saves your progress as it goes. So if you wanted to go back to this tonight, tomorrow, like that would still be showing up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
this is for transparency. If you just signed up for your own Lovable account, you would be limited by the number of credits. And each time you enter a prompt and ask for a sophisticated thing, it's going to burn through a number of credits that you actually don't really know. Depending on the sophistication of what you're asking it to do, it will burn through more credits. And so we stood everyone up in the class on a paid Lovable account that had a shared credit pool. And I just checked. Luckily, we have not gone through all of our credits. We're only maybe a quarter or a third of the way through. And so we will continue to keep your accounts active until the end of the cohort. We expect kind of around the end of the month or so. We do plan to deactivate them because unfortunately we can't keep giving credits forever. Um,
You don't want to fund our learning?
Now, I did share this in the chat with one of the questions that we had, and there is a way to see the code that Lovable has built for you. There's a little code button that you can hit at the top of the Lovable interface. If I actually take a minute here, I can pull it up. And what that allows you to do is to download all of the source code of what Lovable built for you as a local file on your local computer. And so, as such, now you would have a permanent file on your computer that then you could open back up in anything in Claude Code, in Lovable, in Replit, in Google Codex, any of these AI coding apps, and say, "Hey, I built this over in this other tool. Take a look at it. Everything look good? Yeah, it'll come back and say everything looks good on this. Okay, now I want to add a new feature to it, and you could have a different app working on it. This is actually like fairly portable between tools, generally speaking, with a few caveats along the way, depending on kind of the sophistication of what you're trying to do. So let me just quick screen share and I'll show you what that looks like so that you understand. So looking at, I was just looking through everyone's projects here. Again, I think we identified earlier, we can all see each other's projects because we're all in a shared environment. This is a safe space. So great to see everyone's work in here, which is really neat. So I'm just going to pick one at random. And so when I'm in here, there is this code section you can go over to. And through all of its hard work, this is the code structure that it's built. It's all these different files that all talk to each other and store everything and do all the work. And you can just download the entire code base here. And now you have that artifact of what you've built. There would be ways that you could run this on your local computer, that you could just, execute this code locally on your machine. So like the regulation tracker is a great example of that. You could just have that running on your own machine. You don't need a subscription to anything. Yeah, it would just run on its own. But we could always take that code base and then point it at Claude or I guess theoretically Microsoft Copilot. I'm not as familiar, but to various different AI tools that could then interpret it and continue work on it. Maybe they could update the code, refactor it. We did have another question too about how could I take one of these applications and store it on my SharePoint to share throughout the company? Well, that's a great question that you could ask Claude or ask Lovable. How could I take this app that I just built with you and produce a code base that can run on SharePoint? And you'd be surprised. It can go through and completely refactor all of its code and then generate a code base that you could then flip over to someone in IT who could review it all and make sure it's all safe and say, well, maybe we could actually run this on our SharePoint site. It's quite surprising how good it is at completing these very complex tasks because it can go through and read the documentation of SharePoint and find out what's allowed and what's not allowed and edit the code for you.
Quickly, I know folks had some questions on publishing. So I'll just answer some of that live right here. So you are able to like publish from Lovable as well. If you do that, that's going to generate a URL that you can then, and we've got Andrew beat us to it in the chat. We've got an example here for you to see. So now rather than that particular application just living on Andrew's laptop, that is now something that all of you are able to see and access. So it's quite exciting in that sense as well. That URL you'll notice like has Lovable in it. But if you like ever wanted to take that additional step of like hosting this somewhere else, there are ways to do that. And I can confirm, like Claude will walk you through step by step exactly how to do that as well if you had like a certain domain that you wanted to use. So it's a great way to share out this information. But then if you ever really wanted to make it something real with your own domain, that's an option as well. All right. And we're at like the 2 minute mark here. Any other questions? Parting thoughts?
How are the vibes on vibe coding? Like, are we feeling confident? Are we feeling scared? Are you feeling like Hannah is an amazing instructor? Okay, thank you, Claire. Yeah.
The one thing I'll add is that I think it's kind of addictive. You when you start doing this vibe coding or kind of you kind of get into this kind of constant iteration. You kind of at some point, when do you stop and when do you keep iterating?
It's a good question, Andrew. And I don't know if I think it depends who you ask. I feel like it is one of those things that like the same way like with a work of art or like painting something, like you kind of have to like trial and error of like, is this done? Like, am I good or am I going to add in a few more finishing touches here? So I think that's the maybe the forever question with this, but I agree with you. It is quite addicting at times.
And to that point, if you find yourself later tonight, whatever this weekend, working on your math, not meth lab or any other projects, and you have a question, you get stuck, and you do your classic screenshot, share with Claude, and Claude can't help you. Feel free to reach out to any of the email addresses you have, or you can put it on the Compliance AI community forum if either you found something very cool or you have a question, and we will absolutely get back to you because I know it can sort of be a thing of like you play around and then you're like, wait, no, I'm stuck. So you are not alone after this, but you are now empowered and have the confidence of having pressed uh, like publish on Vibe Coded app. So congrats. Cool. We'll wrap it up here. You will get emails from us. You'll get resources. Again, reach out if you are alone, scared, need help. And we'll see everybody next week. Thank you all. Bye.